There's no such thing as a perfect father. All of my advice and all of my timing are perfect because I have time to edit. I'm not doing the real work of a father. You're doing the real work of a father. Just your presence there, you have no idea how important it is in your kid's life.
Summer Clayton was a fitness trainer at the Columbus Air Force Base. He's not a therapist, not a life coach. He is a proud dad to 5 million people.
I like to nurture people. God has placed that encouraging tendency in me, and I get to use that to build people up and encourage them. When I first started using the TikTok app, it was a lot of self-indulgence, consuming content or making content that was funny. When I noticed that people started to follow me, it felt like an opportunity to nurture the community that I had.
What really, truly lights you up?
I just really enjoy being able to evoke emotion, bring people into the community, and talk transparently about things that we all struggle with, but that sometimes it's just hard for us to speak about.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Hilary. I really appreciate that very awesome intro. I think I ran out of blood because I was blushing so much. So I really appreciate you just being so kind. I got to give all my glory and praise to God because without him, I would not have the platform that I do. And so he's entrusted me with this platform. He knows that I love to help others, and I get to do that to the people that I may never meet. Very likely the majority of people I will never, ever meet. But I get to do this. I get to encourage people across the screen and share my life experience, albeit limited. I am only 28, but it feels really good.
Well, you know what's
Yes.
what I love the most about you, you are so humble. You are one of those that even as your users and your followers are going up and up, you have this incredibly humble kind of perspective on life. And I can absolutely understand why people are following you. And I sit here as we're talking, and I have a house load of kids, and I have 26-year-old twins. And you are a twin. And
Yep.
guess what? I have boy-girl twins as well. So super excited to talk to you about that. But it was interesting when I was getting ready this morning, I said to my twins who are here, I said, hey, do you happen to know this guy, Summer Clayton? And they both looked at me and they're like, yeah, why? How do you know him, Mom? And I said, I am going out to interview him. And they're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, okay, well, apparently I'm cooler than you thought. And so thank you for being here. And you've just elevated, my street cred with my own kids. And my youngest daughter hasn't even come in yet. So when I tell her, she's going to be like, what are you talking about, Mom? What are you saying? I should have been there earlier. So I love the idea of always taking people. This is what this podcast is all about, the ReLaunch podcast. And I got to ask you, you've had some really significant relaunches in your life already at a very, youthful age. But what would you say is the most significant so far that has really set you up to be the proud dad?
Right. Well, as I continue to just go throughout life, I'm just adding to this story, this testimony that I get to use to share my faith and share how Christ is working in my life. At one point, maybe it was just when I was starting my first graduate school and I decided to drop out of my first graduate school. It was the first time I'd ever done anything that significant. That was terrifying for me. And I called my mom. She's like, in short, don't settle. Find something else to do, use your time wisely, and then do what you actually enjoy. And so I said, okay, you know what? I did my gap year, although I wasn't expecting to. I wanted to go from my undergrad right into grad school, right into the workforce, and I wanted to work and train elite athletics. Didn't end up doing that, and we'll circle back around there to the third or fourth or fifth relaunch that I'm currently experiencing. But I did my gap year and then graduated with my master's in kinesiology and sports performance and decided, okay, well, now what? I spent some time during COVID working on a military base doing landscaping until I was blessed with a job to do fitness training as just a group fitness instructor. And then at some point, I was blessed with this job to work with the US Navy aboard a naval carrier. And I was able to work directing fitness programs on that ship. Ended up leaving that job because I didn't want to deploy. You know, we would do these underways in and out, 3 weeks at a time, 2 weeks at a time, because the ship was new. And they wanted to test all of these different components. They wanted to test the hangar deck and the flight deck and certify their pilots. And at some point, when you're done with all of your certifications, you've got to go and deploy. And I said to myself, do I want to deploy living with two other people in a very small room? I do not. I wonder if I can find the same job, but working on shore. Around this same time, my TikTok was starting to blow up. One of the first videos that actually brought people to my platform was me showing them simply how to shave. The second video
What
that
year?
brought,
What year was this?
so this was the end of 2020, December, it was January, February, around there. I
Okay.
remember the end of 2020, I wanted to have 1,000 followers on TikTok. At that time, I could go live.
Mm.
Since then, they have reduced the number of followers you need to go live, but at the time it was 1,000. And it was because it was around the turn of the new year. My family had this tradition where we would pray out the old year and pray in the new year, just
I
spending our
love
time thanking
pray
God.
out. Wait, pray out the old year and
Yes,
pray in the new.
yes,
Love that.
absolutely. That was something that was started by mom and dad, and maybe somewhere along the line, their parents did it with them as well. But
Right.
I wanted to bring it to the people who followed me too.
Hmm.
To me, it was a very large following. I didn't know what to do. 1,000 people was crazy because I had all of these messages and comments, and I thought to myself, I just stick on top of these, every single one, as an aside. But I digress. I want to pray out the old year, pray in the new year. And I never made it to that goal, but that's how I know around that time I hadn't even hit the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. So around 2021, I had already been doing motivational style content as I started to
But wait,
grow.
wait, wait. Your first thing was teach him how to shave.
Yes.
Okay, I've seen it. It is so funny when you're like, oh, you may not even really have, you might just
Yes.
have. It's so great because that's so true, especially with teenage boys where they
Yes.
have, they have like the two
Uh-huh.
hairs on the left and they've
Yep.
got like the five on the chin.
Yes, yes, yes. Like so much that a cat could lick it off, you know.
Right.
So, and that's a joke that I heard from my parents too. So I figured, hey, I might pass it on to this audience and maybe they'll get something out of it. But more so, it was, I think they enjoyed someone teaching them something. I would learn a lot over the course of doing my tutorials, going from hygiene into cooking into the dinner with dads, which then created a whole wave of other people who started to engage with my content, and then into mental health and fitness and wellness and faith, and just trying to diversify as a whole.
But Summer, before we continue down this, first off, this is, Father's Day and we're right around there. It was interesting. My dad, who passed
Mhm.
a couple years ago, was also in the Navy. He was a lieutenant and he taught on board. And so when you said that, I'm like, I think my dad's here right now with us, which is a very sweet thing to think about. But what I love is that you started with just what triggered you to start with, hey, let's just go with the shaving thing. There had to be some type of relaunch there that you're like, I'm going to share this. Was there a family member? Was there like what happened where you're like, hey, I've decided I'm going to go live
Right,
and I'm going to shave.
right. Absolutely. You know, when I first started using the TikTok app, it was a lot of self indulgence, just either consuming content or making content that I thought was funny that I think is now terribly embarrassing. I have some old videos on my TikTok. Don't even look. It's so embarrassing.
We're
Um,
going to now go back and look.
please don't. But the people who followed me from the very beginning, they still enjoy it. It was corny, but that's kind of what it was. At some point, when I noticed that people started to follow me, it also felt like an opportunity to kind of lean into the community and just kind of nurture the community that I had. I can't say that there was a point in time where I said, you know what, there's a lot of fatherless kids. Let me capitalize off of this.
Yeah.
It was more so I like to nurture people. I
Mm.
feel like God has placed that sort of encouraging vibe or tendency in me, and I get to use it. I get to use both the negative and positive experiences of my upbringing with my parents and with my peers, and I get to use that to build people up and encourage them. What really helped me to go full fledged into it, or what really motivated me to do so, was this idea of younger me who would sit alone during lunch. And I often flash back to those memories of sitting alone. And sometimes, whenever I see it in TV or media, or when someone sends me a message and say they ate alone or they ate with me, there's a little bit of excitement there because they're benefiting from my content, but the majority of it is just sadness for them because
Yeah.
I don't want you to have to eat with me. I'm glad that you're getting some encouragement from me, but I want you to be able to have your own friends and community. It makes my
Right.
heart hurt to hear that people are sitting alone or being bullied or going through such horrible stuff. So that's what really, to me, motivates me today. Is when I get those heart wrenching messages or those heart wrenching comments, or I flash back to the times where I was bullied
Mm.
and or the times where I sat alone, and I think to myself, I don't want other people to experience this. And so that's what pushes me to make the content that I do today, the POVs and the tutorials and the reminders about your mental health and the pushing people
Mm.
towards Christ because I lean on him so heavily.
You know, you have no like idea how this is resonating with me. I ran an internet security company to keep kids safe online
Wow.
for years. And I would go and I'd speak at middle schools and high schools. And I was always kind of paired up with a group called Rachel's Challenge. And it was the one from Columbine where the girl was killed, but she had this journal and she had this foreshadowing that this was going to happen. And in the journal, she talks about that, it's that one kind thing that you can do for
Right.
someone, the chain reaction. And after everyone had been killed, and a boy came out and said, you know what? I was planning to commit suicide. And the night that I was planning to do it that day, Rachel smiled at me and said something. And because that was a act of kindness, just a nice gesture she did, it allowed him to feel like, you know what?
Right.
Maybe the world isn't that bad. And I really see, like, I have chills down my body that that's what you're doing. You're providing those kids that may be being bullied, that may not have friends right now, that may feel lost, that may not have the parent and the family situation. And you're giving them your time and your heart to really connect with them. So I got to, again, just shout out to you because it's so impactful. Now, your childhood, can you share with us what was that like? And there's relaunches there too.
There's a lot of transition in my childhood. We were a family of little means, but we are also a very spiritual family. But sometimes those things have their own effects, I would say. Because we were a family of little means, whether we were able to control it or not, there were times where there was stress. And I know my parents felt it. I know that we felt it. My parents knew that we were in neighborhoods that were not really conducive to raising a family. They had to find ways to keep us disciplined, keep us safe. And some of those methods of discipline, I think, caused me and my dad to drift apart a little bit. He was really just the disciplinarian. As loving and as protective as I can remember him being, he was also the disciplinarian. And so
Mm.
that caused us to drift a little bit. And during those times where I would be transitioning from this elementary school to this one, or this middle school to this one, I mean, after six high schools, it gets to be a bit hard to really have close, tight knit friendships and to feel confident. Maybe some of the reasons that people picked on me was because I was awkward, but I think it was just because a lot of kids at that time in their lives needed something to step onto, to elevate themselves. All of those effects, some of which stick with me today, but all of those effects kind of made for, at some points, a childhood that I feel like there wasn't a lot of time to just stop and be and put down roots. And that continues a lot into my adulthood. I've moved so many times, which you can probably talk about later. But between the relationship with my dad, which has gone leaps and bounds so much better, and the experiences in my childhood, those things I think really helped me to have a bit of perspective and a bit of experience to relate to other people who are going through similar things and tell them you can come out on the other side okay.
Hmm. So, Summer, do you have a better relationship, you said, now with your dad? I did see one video that you guys did together, which I thought was really cute. But it sounds like this proud dad has actually helped your relationship flourish.
Yes. And I would say it's also the ability of my dad to also be able to chat with me. You know what? When you're young, you're an adolescent, you don't always agree with your dad.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that my dad's actions towards me, whether in love or in frustration or both, more likely, wanting to protect us, they had unintended consequences. But when I left home, I think that was the biggest determinant of us being able to build together again because we had space. What is it, the term, the phrase, distance makes the heart grow fonder or something
Right,
like that?
right.
But as a teenager, you're in the house with a person that makes you frustrated. And sometimes you're over exaggerating things, you're being dramatic. And sometimes your parents can grieve your kids. That just happens. No parent is perfect. But as I had space, I had the ability to come back around and actually enter these conversations with empathy, understanding where he was coming from, understanding where my parents were coming from and how they grew up. And it helped me to understand, okay, you know what? I'm upset and frustrated now. This is what they went through. This is why they went to such limits to protect us. And at the end of the day, my parents are just getting older. If I'm going to spend the rest of my life just being bitter, literally just, what's the word? I'm literally just wasting this relationship that we have. That's how it
You
felt
are
to me.
so you are so wise above your years, my friend. I do want to tell you, I was a single mom, three kids. You know about my twins, Derek and Danny. And I'll never forget, my son Derek loved to dress up. And he came down and he had gone into a drawer, and I think that there was a bow tie in there. And he comes downstairs and he says, Mom, I'm going to wear this to dinner with you tonight. And I think it was actually Mother's Day. And I always did this with my son. I always had Mother's Day with him. And he comes down, he's like, okay, help me tie it. And I'm like, deer in headlights. Well, I don't know how to do that. And so he says, okay, no problem. I think that I'll just wear the shirt. No problem. He was being so sweet. Well, he comes down about 30 minutes later, and he had gone on YouTube and had basically taught himself how to tie a bow tie. And so when I started watching yours, I literally got tears in my eyes that it's not just, I mean, you're connecting and you have the ability to connect with all ages. All ages can appreciate because, again, it brought my own raising of my children into perspective. I watched recently one of your how to fold a fitted sheet.
Right.
I'm like, I'm the one that rolls those up and I kind of like pat it down on the top.
Yes. Yep.
I do that and it looks terrible. And I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, Summer, that is so good. So then what do? I send it to my kids. I'm like, hey, I never taught you this, but hey, this is really good stuff. I mean, it is so I love. Okay, so tell me which which are the segments that just really light you up? If you could only do that type of segment, because you have the how to, you got the dinners, you got all these different things that you're getting into, as you said, what really truly lights you up?
Well, that's a good question. I appreciate you asking that. I really enjoy being able to help people to feel emotion. There's some videos that I create that are higher production. I just use my higher quality camera and I spend a lot of time editing and all of those sort of things. And they're usually on a specific topic. I don't get a lot of time to do those very often. And truthfully, I know people don't really watch them because they're not short enough. But I really love those because they make me feel something when I'm creating them,
Yeah.
and they make other people feel something when they watch them. That's when I know I've accomplished something. So I would say the dinner with dads fall into that category. I like the tutorial stuff. I like the life skills stuff, but sometimes I feel like I'm spreading myself so thin. And it really
Mm,
would be very nice to be able to just go a little bit deeper into talking about some of the things that we're all plagued with, some of the maladies that we're all working through, whether it means having these conversations with you, Hillary, or being able to interview other people, or just being able to dive deep into my faith and some of the things that I struggle with, and being able to be transparent about those things. Those are the things that I really love to do, but also just being able to have fun with the community. When I was first starting out, and I know that things have shifted a little bit amongst the people who follow me. But when I was first starting out, maybe a million or two,
uh-huh.
I was able to like have this really fun and light relationship with the people who follow me. They would make jokes in the comments and I would make jokes right back to them. It's very hard to do that now because if I were to let that side of myself go onto my TikTok, people are like, "Are you okay? Did they make you angry?" I'm like, "I'm fine. You just weren't here 2 or 3 years ago when this was a normal thing to do." So I just really enjoy being able to evoke emotion, bring people into the community, and talk transparently about things that we all struggle with, but that sometimes it's just hard for us to speak about.
You know what you have right now that is happening? You're an entrepreneur and you're scaling massively, very quickly. And I can't tell you how many people listening are like, I'm feeling like I'm spread too thin. And so, what we always talk about is kind of really going back to, we call it 3HQ, the headquarters of you, your head, your heart, your highest self, your connection with God, being in your best version of you. And leaning into that side, because you're right, you can do this, you can do that, you can do that. I mean, you're like the man that can do it all, but you're finding that it's hard to do. So as you're really going forward, and we only have 24 hours in a day, right? How do you manage your time right now? I love the laugh. It's like, is it one of those? Am I managing my time right now? I sleep 2 hours a night now.
I'm not as busy as people think that I am. There are some times where I am. Right now, life is really it's not settled because I've moved around so much.
Mm,
I lived I lived in California, born and raised in California. We moved to North Dakota as a family because there was an oil boom going on at the time, and so my parents wanted us to be able to have a better life. So I finished my fifth and sixth high school out there in North Dakota. Did my undergrad in between three different universities because I couldn't choose what I wanted to do, and then did my went to Colorado for a portion of grad school and did my gap year out there. Then went back to North Dakota and then moved to Indiana for my graduate school.
oh my
Moved
gosh.
back to North Dakota and then moved to Virginia for that job with the Navy. Moved back to North Dakota and then moved to Mississippi to work with the Air Force. And then I moved to California for a job that I got fired from, and now I'm here in Kansas. So I have not been settled.
Okay.
And
I gotta say, I write about a ton of moves and a ton of houses in my book. I have a chapter on them because I had so many. And you did such a masterful job remembering all these things. I'm like, okay, and then where did I go? And what did I do? Okay, so you have this unsettledness. My
yes.
my grandma used to call the divine discontent of like where am I supposed
Yes.
to be?
Yeah.
Where can I take root?
Yes.
And how are you going to at this point? You know, you're talking about this moving around
Yeah.
and timing, and you're like, hey, I actually have more time than
Yeah.
you'd think,
Mhm.
but you're 28. Do you want to be a dad someday? Is this something that you're thinking? Do you, I don't know if you're in a relationship, not in a relationship, but is that something that you're thinking about?
Yes, I am. It's really cool. Talk about time management, and I wanted to hit back on that really quickly. I didn't want it to go unanswered. As I've been doing so much transition, I've allowed myself to rest and know that the
Mm.
timing that I produce content, it's okay to not produce 3 pieces of content every week. Sometimes I can just recall other content that I made in the past. And that's okay because God's blessing me with the platform. He's blessing me with the growth. And as much as I want to be a good steward of what He's blessed me with, which is what I'm in this season doing now, be more consistent with my posting and all that sort of stuff, it's crazy. When I was working those jobs full time, didn't have the time to be as consistent. But now that I'm not working all of those jobs and those really labor or not labor intensive, but mentally intensive work, and I'm not in school anymore, I can be a better steward. And this is
Mm.
the recent growth on Instagram and the recent growth on TikTok. It just propels me into believing that this is what He has for me. And as I've gone into the schools and done my subbing and have been around some of the students that have enjoyed my content or have, for example, when I was in this middle school classroom, it kind of wrenched my heart a little bit. I was talking to one of the younger, or it was elementary school, one of the younger kids in fourth grade, and he was telling me that someone took the computer he always uses. And he was so upset by that. He started to cry, and my heart was like, it's okay. You don't have to cry. I was just feeling so empathetic towards him. I told him, hey, you know what? Sometimes we're going to go through things. We're going to go through change. And change is not always comfortable, but sometimes there are little things that we can do. So while you may not be able to have the best, your computer with the screensaver that you added, maybe you can go through and adjust some of the themes on the wallpaper and make it feel
Mm.
personalized to you. And those experiences with those youth, whether elementary or middle school or high school, and seeing them at their worst sometimes and seeing them at their best and congratulating them, it really gets me like, oh, it'd be super cool to have my own kid, whether I foster or adopt. I just like tap my feet down here because it makes me so excited. I don't know when that's going to happen. Obviously, not right now. I'm not in a financial position to do so, but I do
I
get
love that
excited
you're
about it.
saying though, foster or adopt. It's kind of like you're leaving it very open. Sounds
Yes,
like your connection with divine is so strong that it's wherever it's going to lead
right.
you will be the right place.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I also have to say, this morning we got bad news about my stepson. He has only been 21 for probably a month. Finally, it's a passed down car, and a couple days ago it was stolen.
Oh man.
So he's not able to come today, or he'll come tonight or tomorrow because he's dealing with the police and everything. And I witnessed my husband talking to him this morning because he's just, everything was this car, and so excited for the freedom, and now I don't have this. And I heard Eric, I call him E, he said, you know what, it's a car, it's a car, and we're going to get you to Colorado Springs, we're going to
Right.
have an incredible time, the family, and you know what, we'll worry about that
Mhm.
later. Right now it's about getting you here.
Right.
And it was such a beautiful Father's Day kind of moment. And I'm hearing you as you're going through, these stories. And I got to tell you, you are just, whenever it happens, whether it's, in continuing to grow this audience, it's just so wonderful to see your dedication to humankind, to the kids. And as I said, it's women like me that were single moms. The reach is so huge. But you talk about the fun element, and you just have this, like, I talk about my fun element, and I'm like Lucille Ball,
Uh-huh.
right? I love Lucy. I got that side to me. Who would you say is your, like, this alter ego around your funny bone, around what makes you laugh?
Well, it's
I love that you're already laughing. This is the best part.
Well, it's really, I can, I have to be very careful with the sides of me nowadays, especially because of that shift in my audience. They just don't understand if I'm ever being comical or if I ever make a reaction video or if I'm ever just doing something that I think is funny. A small example, some people will make videos, list videos, and they will say, for example, this is what I think of these 10 cars, and they will associate certain personalities to those cars. Like, for example, the 2003 Nissan Altima or the Jeep Wrangler, or this, like,
Yeah.
they'll associate these personalities to them. And of course, they're all done in jokes. Some of them can be a bit more biting, some of them can be a bit more cheeky, or
Right.
whatever. If I were to do those now, I have to go through a whole different set of questions that I ask myself. I have to say, what if someone in my followers list has one of these cars? I don't want them to
Oh.
feel less than because I am, even in jest, making fun of
Mm.
these cars. So a lot of the other side of me is a lot of dry humor, but only my coworkers and my family and friends get to see that. I don't let a lot of it go online. And I wish I could because
Yeah.
there's a whole other portion of me, but I want to be really cognizant of the people that follow me and even some of the things that they see me promote. There's a lot of, Kristen will tell you, there have been a couple times where I have had,
Kristen is the producer. She's
yes,
on right now. She's doing
yes,
amazing work here at the ReLaunch podcast. Yes.
sorry, my bad. Um, she will tell you there have been times where certain brands have come into my inbox and I turn them down, even though
Yeah.
I definitely need the money because I'm like, I don't need people to see me promoting these luxury brands because I'm not about that lifestyle. I'll choose a Honda
No.
Civic over a BMW. I'm not a
Mhm.
Louis Vuitton guy. Take me to the Walmart clearance rack because it's about being sensible with your money,
Oh.
being smart with it. So all of those things, I
Mm.
filter myself as I hit record nowadays, especially because I don't want people to feel less than or to feel excluded. But
That's hard though. When you start to get into the hundred of millions of fans and people, which you're going to get, you're going to be there. It's hard to, you can't please everybody, right?
mhm,
And so filtering, I want to see the real you.
right.
And it's kind of like the people that are going to be signing up and wanting to follow you want to follow the real you. So
Mhm,
just think about that. But
yes.
before we end, I have to ask you, all right, Father's Day. And I love that I'm asking you to do this. But if you could speak to fathers all across the country, all across the world, and say one thing this Father's Day, after all that you've learned, after all these conversations with all these people on your social media, what would it be?
I would say there's no such thing as a perfect father. I play the role of an internet father, and all of my advice is perfect. And I'm going to qualify that. All of my advice and all of my timing and all of the tutorials, they're perfect because I have time to edit. I have time to bounce my ideas off of family and friends. I'm not doing the real work of a father. You're doing the real work of a father, or you have the ability to do the real work of a father. So
Mm.
kudos more so to the people who are out there and having to be the bad guy or be the good guy or cry with your kid and laugh with your kid and celebrate and encourage them. You have the real opportunity to change a kid's life around. If me, someone online who's doing internet dad work, through the messages and comments have the ability to uplift a kid, how much more you being in your kid's life, physically there, trying your best to be a good father as you do or try to do, can have a role in your kid's life. So, no such thing as a perfect father. I think just your presence there, you have no idea how important it is in your kid's life.
I call them scazy goals, scary and crazy
Yes.
goals. Okay. Rocket goals that you want to, that you would love to achieve. What would a scary and crazy, a scazy goal be for you when we come back together as an update? Let's say this show, second time around, I want you on next Father's Day. What would be a scazy goal that you want to achieve?
If it's in God's will, it would be super cool to either get into acting or have my own variety show where I can do the hard talks through the cooking tutorials, the life skills, all in one show, inviting on other positive creators and just have that space. That would be a really crazy goal. I don't know if it's going
Summer,
to happen, but
Summer, from your lips to God's ears,
yes.
right? That's what they
Right.
say. And you've just put that out there. You put it out there, and I have no doubt that it will be. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to actually write it down to contact you and just see where you are
Okay.
in 12 months from right now. Well, it has been so much fun having you here, and to all of the fathers out there, to everyone that is performing as a father image to anyone out there. Happy Father's Day. Summer, thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to continue to follow you and see where you're going. Kristen, who, as I said, is our producer, I have no doubt you are going to, I mean, again, this is like rocket fuel. You are on it. Keep being you. That's my only bit of advice. Just keep being authentically you, because you are one charming, incredible man. So thank you again for being here. And as I always say, as we wrap this up, it's relaunch. You're remarkable. And Summer, you are truly remarkable. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for being here.
And thank you for having me as well.
And again, live now, love now. How are you going to relaunch now? How are you going to hear what we just heard from Summer and have that next you come out? Whether it's doing something crazy like just going live one day and just trying to make something that you know you're supposed to be doing and impacting in this world. So everyone, we will look forward to having you back next week, and have a wonderful Father's Day. Take care. Awesome.
Oh,
Oh, you are so just okay. I want you to do one thing before we stop
okay.
recording. I want you to just say, I just was on the Relaunch podcast with Hilary, and you got to watch it, because just some little snippet of what you garnered, what
Yeah.
came for you.
Right. I was just on the podcast with, sorry, hold on. We'll go over again.
The
I was just,
relaunch podcast.
okay. I was just on the ReLaunch podcast with Hilary, and you've got to watch it. You get to see a different side of me and overall why I do the videos that I do. It's going to be a great time. I hope you show up.